because at the end of the day, I still want to be able I don't dislike George Washington. I don't dislike even some of the most racist people in history. But I want to know their history, but I also want to know not only that, hey, they were whatever, but I also want to know about the Shirley Chisholms. I also want to know about the Frederick Douglasses. And not even Nat Turner. I want to know more about Nat Turner than him just being some revolutionary. I want to know the Nat Turner that was out in the fields. I want to know the Nat Turner that grew up as a kid. I don't want to know just the narrative. Tuned in to our big and stuff. Tuned in to our big and stuff. Tuned in to our big and stuff. Tuned in to our big and stuff.
My futon, hold it up and smoke it. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for.
It's madness, yo. All the things that we could talk about.
Call it.
But let's talk about these urban circumstances real quick.
And basically, it's
we got this.
So,
revolution.
Winner's frosty hand. Muhammad is the fame's name, forever stand.
Standing on royal fusing of justice for the few, ridiculed by the pale terrorists bent on genocidal obsession, rooted in fear of neglection and abandonment, fueled by nightmares of ancestors' jealousy.
Truth, because at the end of the day, I still want to be able to I don't dislike George Washington.
The kind of friends I think all friends should be like my friends. My friends are the kind of friends I think everyone needs. My friends see the things at times I don't see. My friends hate the police.
What has changed?
Are deemed the criminals, and the blacks are deemed the criminals.
shut up and help.
Reflection ain't nothing but the inner child trying to see you. You gonna look? You gonna pick up that book?
Lord, keep me far from the faith. Guide me through night and day. Teach me your ways. Show me the righteous way to sway. Lord, can you teach me, please? Show me the way, I'd say. Grand risings, grand risings, grand risings, grand risings. Y'all already know what it is. You're tuned in to the Urban Conservative with Chaz Neal. I'm your host. This morning, we're going to get into it, man. I want to I see some stuff going on the last couple of days, just talking about, wealth and Black reparations, and things like that. And I see them coming up as political issues, right? And then I see people bringing up Jim Crow. So I wanted to start off this episode today with what I think is people, I think people forget about the fight, right? And I just want people to, y'all see what it is. So let me get right into it, man, and I will be right back shortly.
Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up
the fight. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's an all that Peter is gold. After story had never been told. So now you see the light. Hey, stand up for your right. Come on, get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Most people think great God will come from the sky, take away everything and make everybody feel high. But if you know what life is worth, you would look for yours on earth. And now you see the light, you stand up for your rights. Ja, get up, stand up. Ja, ja, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Life is your right. Get up, stand up. So we can't give up the fight. Stand up for your rights. Lord, Lord. Get up, stand up. Keep us traveling on. Don't give up the fight. Yeah. We're sick and tired of your ism, schism, game, dine and go to heaven in Jesus' name, Lord. We know and we understand Almighty God is a living man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So now we see the light. We gonna stand up for our rights. Yeah, so you better get up, stand up in the morning. Give it up, stand up for your rights. Stand up right now. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Don't give it up, don't give it up. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Yo, get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. So that was Bob Marley, Get Up, Stand Up. I just wanted to get people in the mood to understand, man. And it's time to fight back. It's time to fight fire with fire. You know what I'm saying? It's time to learn and educate on how to fight on how to fight back. And that's what I want to talk about today is how do we fight back? And I believe in that is building wealth in the Black community. And I wanted to play a video from Dr. Boyce Watkins, who really doesn't really get into the whole political shit. You know, it's more about, you know, how do we as a Black community stand up and fight back? And it's not always in the political realm, right? Because there is other ways to fight back. And I don't think people fully understand that because we always want to talk about, you know, history, or, you know, we want to talk about this, we want to talk about that, but we don't ever really get into shit that matters, right? And that's one thing that I want to discuss today. And I want to play this video from Dr. Boyce Watkins that I think people need to pay attention to. And I will stop it occasionally to stop and talk about some things that he brings up. So let's just play it and let me be quiet.
Trying to employ people. They're not looking and saying, well, you know, our people are not employed. It's our job to employ them. Our communities are not safe. It's our job to make it safe. Our people don't have what they need. It's our job to go develop that infrastructure. Who's doing it? Who's even thinking that way? And the people that are thinking that way, and this is the part that's really sinister about it, the people who are thinking that way are the ones that get identified as radical Black people. These are the ones who get seen as people that are not appropriate for whatever reason. In fact, actually, when you look at this whole revolution right now that's happening, where you've got this whole cadre of millions and millions of Black people, I'm going to talk specifically about a lot of the young men. You got all these young Black men now that are now thinking about wealth and investing and starting businesses. And I'm very proud of that. That's really exciting to me. Isn't it interesting that most of these men, a lot of these men did not go to college? The college boy ain't really thinking about trying to go build nothing. All he's thinking about is selling himself to a corporation. That's it. 9 times out of 10, the guy who got the college degree is holding this little piece of paper and going to each white man's door and knocking on the door, hoping that he can get a job. And if he does not get the job he wants, he's going to be sad and depressed and whatever, right? There's not and really this idea of going and doing striking on your own and creating something of your own is seen as a radical, crazy idea. How do I know this? Because I was that boy. I was that guy. I went to college and got the degrees, and the reason I got the degrees was because I thought I could get a great job. That was all I knew about. That was all I was taught. But I did not really, as a young man, understand I could go get a good job, but I could also build a great company. And I'm much more effective if I build a great company than I am if I get a good job, because we've always had Negroes with good jobs. We've had Negroes with good jobs for well over 100 years.
So that's one thing that I do want to talk about is, when he sit there and discusses history, right? When it comes to Black and when it comes to things that we've endured, because we've had all of this, right? We've had the jobs, but what we haven't had is the success, right? Because they sit there and say that, oh, there's Black excellence, this, but they always want to point Black excellence and us being CEOs, not owners, but as managers or supervisors. And it's like, we're more than that. And I don't think we fully understand. And that's the whole crazy thing, right? Because, people laugh at me and Marcus when we say we don't want to be a nonprofit, because for the simple fact of there's so much red tape, there's so many strings that you have to go through. And at the end of the day, you're not fighting for what you really want to fight for. You're doing, well, I shouldn't say that, right? I shouldn't say that, because maybe people actually do get into this for the money. They don't actually get into it with the perception or with the objective in mind to actually change things, to actually get into it to fatten their pockets, to scam the people, to get over on the people. So maybe let me take back the statement a little bit. But Boyce does have some you don't see them building inside the Black community. They're building outside of it. And then when people do try to build inside of it, they offer little things like Minneapolis right now has a relocation grant program for businesses that who would like to relocate inside of Minneapolis to a different area, and they will help you move. For me, they're offering that in certain areas. And you look in those areas are areas that they're trying to gentrify, right? They're making it seem like they're helping it, but in all actuality, it's not. And I think that's the key word, is not even the key word, but the key point in all of this is that we need to educate ourselves and understand what these 2040, 2030 plans are, because they'll tell us that it's going to make our communities beautiful. It's about climate control. It's about environmental justice. It's about economic justice. But what does economic justice look like when we're not at the table? Because I'll tell you this, how can we be at the table if we're workers? If we're not stakeholders, if we're representatives or we're spokespeople, we're not at the table. We're just somebody that is coming to give their public comment. And that's the one thing of it is. Yeah, it is. Downtown is one of those districts for them to move to. Downtown is, I don't know so much about the DID, but downtown is one of those districts that basically put it like this. So for areas that were like up and down Lake Street or North Minneapolis, so you look at the small businesses that were in those areas, right? And then they put them into areas that are dying down, and they're trying to remarket and bring the people back, because at the end of the day, it fits into their 2040 plan or their 2030. which people don't understand because there's so much talk about the 2025 plan from the Republicans and Trump or whatever. I won't even say the Republicans, right? I'll just say more of MAGA, because I do believe there is a difference between MAGAs and this is crazy that we're sitting here, and I'm even getting involved in it, the labeling, because it's insane that we sit here and because of a way of a person thinks or their ideology, we call them that militant, we call them whatever in the book, oh, you're homophobic, you're transphobic, you're Negro, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, damn, it's like whenever you speak your mind about something, regardless if it's the truth, or if it's just facts, people get butthurt and want to say that you're disrespecting them or that, and it's all to deflect and distract from having these uncomfortable conversations. And that's something that I'm going to get into today as well, because, part of it is, I feel like to get unity is to be accountable, right? And before I get into that, I just want people to remember that, right? Remember those words. For us to actually have unity, we have to have accountability. So remember that, just because we're going to come back to that.
People with good jobs don't build communities because they don't know how to build nothing. All they know how to do is walk into a building that's already constructed. I'm not making fun of people that have good jobs now. Some of y'all got good jobs. Keep the job. Keep the good job. Okay, so please don't think I'm criticizing. If I'm criticizing you, I'm criticizing myself, because we're all a bunch of, a lot of us are a bunch of hoity-toity educated Negroes who got these high-paying jobs, maybe, or whatever. But a person with a degree that's looking for a job is like someone who knows how to go into a house that's already built and sit down and eat a meal that's already cooked. That's not the same mindset as a person who learned how to build the house, grow the food, and cook the meal. Do you understand? The ability to occupy a space that has already been created by someone else is not the same as being able to actually create that space for other people. Different mindsets. And so a lot of the people that are truly building in the community are the ones who have been marginalized from the good jobs. Maybe they don't have the college degree, so they had to figure something out. And so these are going to be the builders in the community, because they also are not the ones that are hamstrung by $200,000 or $300,000 in student loan debt that requires them to go get a job to work themselves out of slavery. That's pretty much what effectively ends up happening. It becomes a highly educated sharecroppers. That's what sharecropping was. Sharecropping was a scenario where they would make you think you were eventually going to own something. They made you think that eventually, because remember, hope. If you read that song, there's a lot about hope. So hope is how you keep them in the system, right? So there was always this hope that if I keep working the fields and I work it long and hard, eventually I'm going to be out of debt. But unfortunately, you don't realize that things have been kind of rigged to make sure that you're still working the fields when you're old and gray and
so. Wow, he just put a lot out there, right? And I want to speak on a couple of things that he said, because I do feel like they try to put the educated Negroes in front of us, right? And to promote them. At the end of the day, you have other people that maybe don't have that college education, but have that will and that drive and that hunger and that motivation, but yet because they didn't cave in and want to be a slave to a system, they're looked down on. And we see people that have that what we think American success is, the college degrees, right? And because I really look at that, I really do, right? And I sit there and I think, because I think of some very powerful Black people in Minnesota that are very educated and have degrees up the ass. But then at the end of the day, what does that really get you? Because when you want to do things, nobody supports you, even though you have all those college degrees, even though you have a great track record. Why is that? But when That's what I don't understand. And people will say that that's not racism. What is it then? That's what I want to know. What is it then? If it's not bigotry, it's not racism, what is it then? Because it astonishes me of how we'll look at people and call them educated or intellectual, all because they have degrees. But what do those degrees really mean? Because at the end of the day, we're finding out that these people are indoctrinated. They're programmed to sit there, brainwashed to believe in a program, to not a program, but a system that can change over time. No, it can't. We have to, you can't change something that never had other people in mind. You have to start over. You can't, no matter how many amendments, no matter how many subdivisions you do to it, because it started rotten. And that's what I will never understand, right? No matter what good aspects of Jim Crow, right? Because there was good aspects. There was. And here's the thing of it is, people don't, these white liberals can spin the shit so, and here's the thing, black people are so afraid to piss off their white daddy. Here's my thing of it, and this is really why I want to talk about this, and this is why you see black people won't do certain things, because instead they'll get behind the coattails of a Donald Trump or a Joe Biden, instead of believing in themselves, instead of believing in their community. And that's what I will never understand, because I see all of these people dick riding, but yet I don't see you talking about your local communities. You're talking about something about executive power, not anything about locally. And I will never understand that. And then I'm going to get into a lot today, because it's crazy of how, there's so much injustice in America, and there's things that people won't talk about because it'll hurt their paychecks, right? It'll stop their checks coming in. Don't nobody pay me for shit, man. I'm a self-made man. And if you're out here doing wrong, and that's what this is about today, accountability. Because we need to start holding people accountable. What kind of world do we live in when we don't even see accountability, but yet we're out here screaming unity? I really want to know that. I really do, because there's a lot of hurt people out here. There's a lot of traumatized people out here. People that are out here dealing with pain and suffering that people would rather choose to ignore, instead of just facing the fact that, hey, we live in a shitty world. We have killers that are walking out here in our streets, and that people are bumping and fist bumping, acting like everything's okay, while we have family members, mothers and fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers that are mourning because they don't even know who killed their babies. And yet people walk around like everything's just fucking normal. That's what's crazy. What happened on 36th and Penn on Saturday, you still got a killer out walking around, and everybody just act like it's okay. You have families going to bed at night, not getting that last good night, that last good time, good night story, bedtime story. You're not getting that. But yet we have people out here that took somebody else's life. And we have people out there that protect it. We have people out here that will protect wrong, that will protect evil, and not stand up to it for the simple fact of politics. Politics. I want people to remember that. Politics.
Did. And then maybe when you're about to die, maybe you get close to being free, but you're just not quite there yet. And then also you don't have anything to leave to your children. So what I'm going to say, and I'm going to start reading back in Dr. Anderson's book, this another thought that comes to mind is, I believe that our children can and should be born free. I don't understand, and I mentioned this on my Twitter today. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins and the number 1. I said, I don't understand why a simple statement like buy stock for your children so they don't end up broke is a radical statement. I don't see what's so crazy about that. I'm not a radical guy. This is not the only thing that's radical is that you live in a world where you've been so distracted and so miseducated that common sense sounds like some crazy, insane, radical idea. It's common sense to say that if I prepare an economic bed for this child when they're young and let that money grow, that child can be actually economically free, which means they can actually achieve the economic goal that they should be achieving, which is actually building wealth. The biggest economic goal you have should not be getting a good job. It should not be getting a degree. It should not be, having a high salary or living in a nice neighborhood or driving a nice car or having a nice apartment. All of these things are not connected to the actual goal. The actual goal is to leave this earth with more wealth than you had when you got here so that the person after you is going to be doing better than you, and then they'll be able to be born into freedom instead of having to occupy 70, 80 years of working their way out of freedom and then never actually get in there. Because I've mentioned this to you before, that there are people who've been working 40 or 50 years who have a net worth that is lower than that of a newborn baby. That there are babies in the hospital being born today who have a higher net worth than millions of people who've been working their entire lives. If you don't think something's wrong with that, then please just come see me and we're going to have to get your head checked because there's nothing about that that makes sense. It's all a complete rope-a-dope for the most part. All right, so let me keep reading here. So Dr. Anderson says this. So he mentioned three things that Black politicians are not allowed to do. One, they're not allowed to support causes that alter Black economic conditions. Two, they're not allowed to encourage Black people to operate as a group. And three, you cannot challenge white people for what they did. The particulars of the Southern behavior codes and what whites expected of Blacks were conveyed through person-to-person contacts, written media, and by public proclamation of legal and extra-legal organizations such as the KKK and the White Citizens Councils. When Reconstruction ended in the mid-1870s, the radical Republicans abandoned Blacks and withdrew back to the North. So they did similar to what they did in Vietnam. If you go research things like the fall of Saigon, what you'll see in the fall of Saigon is that we went into Vietnam heavy. We got people in Vietnam to work with us. We supplied weapons and everything else. And then we just decided we didn't want to do it anymore. So we then left, and all the people that were aligned with us, they came in and killed their entire families and all these other things that they did. It was terrible. And so here with us, it was similar, where they came to the South, had a good plan, but America is a country where the construct of the government is not built in a way where they're able to really see things all the way to the finish line. We do it for a while, and then when it's not working, we say, we don't want to do it anymore, and we abandon the people that have become dependent on whatever whatever was promised. This is why these false political promises are not something you can lean on. Look at how quickly they abandoned diversity, equity, and inclusion. That was also similar to the fall of Saigon, without all the violence, of course. The fall of Saigon was much worse, but this was similar. Do you know how many people I know who make all their money from DEI programs? I know so many people who are like the president of diversity and the diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist, what do you do? I do consultations on diversity. I mean, and what they would do is they make money by going to like white universities they're willing to pay a little money to kind of I guess explore their white guilt. And it was a nice profession. It was a nice career. And then suddenly the whole DEI department just gets gutted and it's gone. All the scholarships for Black students gone, right? Just like that. So this speaks to, in my opinion, why you can't depend on things like like the changes in laws and legislation to really liberate you. It's good, it's helpful, but they can take it away anytime they want. If the political mood of the country changes, they're going to take away what they gave you. So wealth to me is one of those things that's a little bit harder to take away. Now, mind you, if you get too much wealth, eventually you're gonna have to defend the wealth with a gun or something, right? But for the most part, wealth is a little more concrete. Wealth is a little less dependent. Wealth exposes you to a little less risk. If I'm a Black man, Black woman, and we have a Black family, and we practice the right values, we're eating healthy, we're taking care of our mental and physical health, we're sticking together, we have a code of conduct and a protocol to make sure that we're loyal to each other. We're building wealth by being thoughtful and conservative when it comes to our money, our spending habits, living below our means, putting aside a nest egg, investing in things.
I don't see nothing wrong with that. To a degree, I agree with you, understanding. I do believe that we should be worried about our future generations. That's one thing that I think that why people join movements, right, is for future generations, even though, and maybe not, maybe their future generations, not everybody's future generations, to live in prosperity and togetherness. You know what I'm saying? But where do we, I know this, right, is I don't know. I know the way that we're going is fucked up. And I think it's been fucked up for a very long time. I think as people have educated themselves, we have become more aware and more knowledgeable about the things that are going on. And I think that's what scares them. I think, and when I say them, I'm talking about the system, the powers that be, because it's not, when we talk about white supremacy, right? No one white person is just powerful, right? Nobody's untouchable. Nobody's untouchable, because we can see that. Look what happened to Donald Trump. This man has all of this money, and then for the simple fact of that, I think what they dislike is Trump knows that he can be touched, right? But they also know that he's unstoppable. He's unstoppable because it doesn't, no matter if this man goes to prison, people are still going to vote for him. But yet we have people that out here that can't even vote because they're a felon. And I don't see the same conversation happening between black people, or let's say even white people. The mindset of build up yourself and family first is right. To help others, you have to be in the right place. Building up community or a group together is more powerful than an individual. Oh, I definitely agree. And that's where it takes a village comes in, right? But they also have to want it and have to have the drive. You can't teach that. No, you can't. I 100% agree with that. You can't teach motivation. You can't teach drive. And I think that's what sets certain people apart, because some people are lazy. They don't want to do their research, so they get behind. That's just like with Jonathan Mason, right? This dude is a trip, right? And that's why I say if people will do anything for money. He puts out there that he started the flower memorial for Officer Jamal Mitchell. And I find it funny because he be fuck 12, all of this, all of that. But doesn't want any, that's how I say these people are hypocrites. How you say you did something, but if it wasn't for the fact that a man partnered with the local flower shop in Minneapolis, you wouldn't have put out your own money, even though that's money from the city of Minneapolis or the state of Minnesota. You wouldn't have bought flowers, because that's not the type of nigga you are. That's not the type of dude you are. You're a selfish ass nigga. So, and you can see that you have all these niggas out here grifting, and that's what I'm gonna call it, grifting. And I'm gonna say it. If you are behind if you're black and you're in Minneapolis and you're behind a Democrat, and you know the things that they're doing and the things that are going on, and you're just like, you just don't care because it doesn't affect you, you're part of the problem. If you're white, you're the same way. You're part of the problem. I don't want to hear about that Donald Trump's a felon when you're protecting scam artists, people that are literally fucking over our communities with millions of dollars that we've seen come into our communities. But yet you won't speak on that. How many people have you seen? I haven't, here's the crazy part, right? I see Republicans talking about the Feeding Our Future scandal. You know who you don't see talking about it? The Democrats. I don't see Governor Walz coming out and talking about that, about how, oh my God, look at what happened with, this is fucked up. What is happening to our judicial system when you have defendants bribing jurors $120,000 to acquit people, all in the name of politics. Let's say the quiet part out loud, all in the name of politics. It's crazy to see that our lives are they look at it as Democratic or Republican. It's crazy. Our money. Our money. It's crazy of the shit that we stand for. It truly fucking blows my mind, man. It truly does. Where is that? Damn it. Where did I? Hold up. I gotta. Oh, wait. Nope. I know where I got the video at. Yeah, because I want to play this other video. This one, I think, I don't know if people watch TikTok, but I watch this guy. So I want people to watch this.
Now look, laws, rules. I'm not up here to discuss that.
Man, this shit low as hell.
Even though New York rules and laws are just crazy, I gotta respect the law. Everybody has to respect the law, and I understand that. However, it does bear the question. All right, why was I able to fly 2 years without declaring my weapon? Why was I able to fly to all these states where out-of-state concealed carry is illegal and have my pistol? Why was I able to do that? I don't understand why the airlines allows pistols to be taken to cities and states that are illegal. In my own opinion, I think if I'm booking a flight, right? If I'm booking a flight, let's say to New York, there should be some type of banner that comes up stating, hey, bro, you might want to think twice about this. If you carrying it right now, federal law states you can't bring a pistol over New York state lines. I would think that the airlines, since this happens all the time, ladies and gentlemen, that they would do something like that. That's another reason why I'm making this video, because that's just crazy. But anyway, I stand before you today to say, pray for your boy, all right? Because personally, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope I get out of this situation. If I do, I'll make another video letting you guys know. I'm not really scared per se. I'm a little nervous because of the simple fact that I was told to do something. I did it, and I still got myself in a lot of trouble. So you guys continue to pray for me. And if you guys do fly out of state, make sure you know your laws, all right? I'm telling you from a person that has pending criminal charges right now. Know your laws, all right? Because the airlines ain't going to tell you. Nobody's going to tell you, and they're expecting you to do your own research about this, all right? So if you're flying to any of these states, New York, I think New York, I want to say Jersey, Delaware, hell, anywhere up north, out west, Cali for sure, be sure to leave your weapon elsewhere because they will lock your ass up, all right? I love y'all. I'll keep you guys updated.
So I want to say that is illegal. He's legal to carry, and everything that you're supposed to do, when you're traveling, have it in a lockbox, have it separated. He did all of that, and yet, and he's flown to New York plenty of times with his pistol. So I think it's really odd, and we've seen it just happen with Dexter Taylor. And people don't want to have these conversations, but the Second Amendment is under attack. Especially when we as Black Americans can't protect ourselves, even when you're legal to carry, because it's crazy to me of how I see not illegal gun owners, but legal gun owners are being attacked all over the country. And yet I don't see people standing up. I don't see people fighting back, because at the end of the day, I honestly don't believe legislation is going to help us. It's not. It's not, unless they're willing to start over. Legislation is never going to help us. That's just facts. It's not. Legislation isn't, and I'm starting to realize that, and it sucks. But shit, that's just the way life is. And something that we have to deal with as Americans is that our country is fucked, and we are headed to very dark times. And we got to realize that. But I want to play another video, and this talks about, let me share my screen. This talks about that everybody knows, Hakeem Jeffries. So this video that we're on the wrong screen, this video that we are about to watch is a guy, I've never heard of him until Reverend Tim Christopher shared him, but Keith Boykin. And as everybody knows, is that Black Republican Byron Donalds says he was misquoted about Jim Crow, but even using his own words, he still gets it wrong and promotes a dangerous conservative nostalgia that ignores the history of how state-sanctioned racial segregation destroyed Black families. And I feel like he honestly broke it down very fucking well.
Jim Crow was the era between 1877. Black Republican Byron Donalds has come under fire for saying that
During Jim Crow, the Black family was together.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries responded by suggesting that Donalds was making a
factually inaccurate statement that Black folks were better off during Jim Crow.
Donalds replied by accusing Jeffries of lying about his remarks.
What I said is that you had more Black families under Jim Crow.
So who's telling the truth here? First, Jim Crow was the era between 1877 and 1964 when Black people were racially segregated by law in America. The total Black population was only 18.9 million in 1960 compared to 47 million today. So it's technically impossible that there were more Black families under Jim Crow. Second, Donalds actually seems to be making the conservative paternalistic argument that non-marital Black families aren't really families. But who gave him the authority to decide what constitutes a Black family? Third, Donalds' claim that the Black family was together during this period represents a popular myth of conservative nostalgia. I write about this in my latest book, where I tell the story of 14-year-old George Stinney Jr., who was raised in a working, church-going Black family in 1940s South Carolina. Stinney was wrongly accused of murdering a white girl, but was convicted by an all-white male jury that took just 10 minutes to decide his fate. The 14-year-old Black boy was sentenced to death and executed just weeks after he was arrested. Although Stinney's parents did everything this country expects of Black families, they could not protect their own child from white supremacy and state-sanctioned racial terrorism. That's what makes the contemporary romanticization of Black family history so disturbing. Were Black families together when the Scottsboro boys were wrongly accused of raping a white woman in 1931? Or when 14-year-old Emmett Till was lynched in 1955? Or when 4 Black girls were murdered in a church bombing in Alabama in 1963? Fatherless families are one of the primary root causes of Black America's current socioeconomic challenges, according to former Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill. If that were true, then what was the cause of rampant Black poverty and unemployment before these so-called fatherless families? Research has shown that Black fathers are actually more engaged with their children than we're led to believe. A CDC report found that Black men were more likely than white men to bathe, dress, diaper, or eat meals with their children. And a Pew Research Center study found that Black fathers who don't live with their children were more likely than white fathers to visit their children on a regular basis. Donalds, who has been desperately campaigning to be Trump's running mate, claims that...
And it was the Democrat policies under HEW, under the welfare state, that did help to destroy the Black family.
First, let's be clear. HEW, the United States Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, was started in 1953 under Republican President Dwight Eisenhower. Second, the policies that Donalds attacks are the very policies that helped Black families since the 1960s. As author Clay Kane noted in response to Donalds, the Black poverty rate in America fell from 55% during the Jim Crow year of 1959 to a record low of 17% in 2022. And even more recently, President Obama's Affordable Care Act, another Democratic policy, reduced the rate of Black people without health insurance from 20% to 10% in just over 10 years. Donalds follows the predictable Republican logic used from Ronald Reagan to the present that has tried to shift the burden of America's problems from government and society to individuals and families. To do this, they deny or diminish the significance of structural racism, sexism, and economic inequality, and perpetuate outdated myths of Black inferiority. From slavery to segregation to the present, Black families have been under social, political, and economic assault. The last thing our families need is Republicans blaming us for the problems that society helped to create.
Got very good points. And I do believe that both sides do take history out of context. Whatever fits their agenda at that time, right? Because we've been given a picture, right, that was supposed to be painted already, right? Or at least how, let's say this, right? We were given a puzzle with our education, with missing pieces, with a lot of missing pieces, or pieces that were disfigured and tried to put back together to look like there was nothing that really happened. And that's how I see it, right? We think about Christopher Columbus, all the things that we were told about how he found America, you know, this and that. And then I always did wonder, because I always talked about the Vikings, that's before Christopher Columbus. If people were paying attention in history. So then I was like, wait, but if he was over here before Christopher Columbus, then how did Christopher Columbus discover something that was already people had been to, or that people were actually already here? And I was like, damn, they really trying to sell a narrative. So I didn't really understand it, you know. And thinking about what Mr. Boykins said, you know, I think about my grandma and grandpa, actually my great grandma and grandpa, and what they felt like, or even what my grandma felt, or was even thinking about, you know, the times of back then, because I couldn't imagine being in 1947 and being young and Black and being accused of something that you didn't do, and there was nothing that nobody could do, that you had to, because who you're going to have faith in? You weren't going to have faith in a justice system that didn't even see you as a person, didn't even recognize you as a human being, right? So you didn't have any faith in that. All you had faith in is that hopefully God would come down and help and do the right thing, or that people would do the right thing. But we see that's not possible, because we've seen 500 years of not possibleness. We thought it was possible, but I'm starting to realize, I think it's impossible, right? I think it's impossible for accountability. I don't think America, our government, was ever built for accountability. I don't believe that it was ever built to hold itself accountable. And that's sad, because we see so many injustices, but yet we're supposed to believe in a system that is supposed to be fair and equal. That isn't fair and equal at all, because there's different tiers. There's different types of justice. There's justice, and then there's injustice. Because I'll tell you right now that you have people that, like, let's say with the Ryan Lundgren, Ricky Cobb, right? The charges were dismissed. You have Ricky Cobb's family and supporters that are saying that it's an injustice. And then you have Lundgren and politicians, which really fucking blows my mind, the Democrats, who say that it was justice that was happening, that a wrong was done. And that's how I'm taking it, right? That's how I'm taking it, when you literally hear things that an elected official, that he was going to get involved in the justice system. That kind of blew my, that's not your job. And the fact that you're having conversations with the defense, that kind of blew my mind too. So it really showed me that what is justice? What is accountability? Because it looks different for everybody. Because people don't know what's right and wrong. And we look at it not in the view of God and not judging. We look at it in the eyes of either a Democrat or a Republican. That's what most look at it as. And that's crazy. That blows my mind, that we as people, because of the way that people think, right, or their ideology, we will stereotype them, we'll label them and call them militant, or, oh, they're this, they're that. And it's like, damn, is that what we believe in when people speak their freedom of speech? Is that what we really think? Because are we just so stuck up in the fact of the whole conspiracy theory, when we hear things that are far-fetched, but yet true? I want people to think about that, because I deal with that every day. I deal with this every day, of these far-fetched stories that are actually true. And it's like, how? Why do we as Black people do this to ourselves? And I'm glad that there is other people out there in the community that maybe you might not be vocal about it publicly, but you are at least privately. And I do appreciate that, because I learned something yesterday. Well, you should learn something every day. You know, I don't know if a lot of people know, but I shared a story on Facebook. Let me pull it up. That I feel bad. Well, I shouldn't say I feel bad, because when you know better, you do better. But I thought people that, see, this is the whole thing that blows my mind, is you believe that people are going to be forefront and truth telling, and but that's not the case. It's not. And it blows my mind, because, like, when are we going to stand up and fight against the wrong that is being done in our communities? And I don't see people doing that. So yesterday I shared this story. Whoops. Hey, Jamal. Damn, then it did all that. But luckily I ain't go that far. All right. So I want to talk about this story, because after I posted this yesterday, I got some calls. I guess you better share the screen. I got some calls, and it kind of shocked me a little bit. But then I could understand why things are the way they are. And honestly, Rochester is no different than Minneapolis. You know, you have these so-called community leaders that ain't. It's all about fucking over the communities in the name of saying that community leadership, or that they're doing better for the community. And there's a lot of people involved in this. The NAACP, the Rochester Police Department, Olmsted County Sheriffs, Andre Crockett. These are people that literally, and this blows my mind because it's crazy that if the things that I was told yesterday and that these people know, like the NAACP, that there was alcohol being served to minors and all the fights, it kind of blows my mind. And I felt bad because I didn't know a lot of things. I don't go out like that. I don't go out to the bars. I don't go out to nightclubs. I haven't done that in years. I'm so over that shit, right? I'm way past that. But I don't judge people that want to live their life and do the things that they do, right? We're all adults. We're human beings. But we should do it honorably. And that's the problem, because I see people come out and talk about P. Diddy, and I'm not trying to compare things of a sexual nature or anything like that. What I'm saying is that we won't even call the people out that are doing things in our community that are not right. We would rather sweep it under the rug than to call it out, because I'll tell you right now that people were in such an uproar over some kids putting up nigger in cups on a bridge, but yet you're not mad that there's places that our teenage kids can go and drink and then get into fights, and it's being allowed by adults, and adults who say they're community leaders and that they're there for the youth. No, that's not a way there to be for the youth. No. That's shit that we're trying to get rid of, not promote. And it blows my mind, because it's like these are people that say they're men of God. That's not God. That's the devil. But I see part of the game is not to call people out. It's not about accountability. And that's why we don't get unity, because nobody wants to be held accountable. Nobody. And there's so much that I even want to say about Brooklyn Center when we talk about accountability. Because you literally, I just got sentenced, well, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago now, right? And the guy that literally I pled guilty, let me say that, right, to spitting on, just became the police chief in Brooklyn Center. And I'll tell you right now, if people were in that courtroom when I was sentenced and they listened to him, to his victim impact statement, that's not the type of police officers we want. And I'll tell you right now, Brooklyn Center, y'all are in for some shit. That man does not like black men. That man does not like black people. So I will tell you this right now, that Garrett Fleischman, y'all are, that dude is a piece of shit. And I mean every word of that. Police Chief Garrett is a piece of shit. Now, he might be a different person when he takes off that badge and that uniform. I don't know that guy. Who I know is Officer or Chief of Police Garrett Fleischman. He's a bitch. So I'm not attacking him personally. I'm attacking his profession, which allows him to lie, cheat, and steal to get what they want to call accountability and justice, when it's all lies and bullshit. Because everybody wants to talk about the MPD. Oh, everybody wants to talk about Jamal Mitchell. And how about the fact that they have on May 24th, 2020, They had over 900 officers. They had 888 officers. They have half of that today. Half of that. Half of that. 493. We've lost half our police force in Minneapolis in 4 years. And they're losing more. And yet want to give these people 22% raises. They don't prevent crime. That's what I don't understand. Why are we giving out bonuses? This isn't, what's crazy is I sit there and I think about, I want to ask Mayor Jacob Fry this, right? In the city council. Think of yourselves as the Minnesota Timberwolves. Think of that you're the owners of the Timberwolves, right? And the Minneapolis police are up for a contract extension. But yet, they're asking for all this money, but yet we're not seeing the results on the court. Are we going to be willing to pay? Because the fans aren't going to come to the seats, to the stands, right? So where are you going to get that money from? Because if the community's not going to support and come out to the stands for a losing team or for a team that it can't trust, why do you support that? I want people to think about that. Why do you support something that you know is no good for you? It blows my mind. It really does. That we literally will continually being shitted on. Shitted on. I'm waiting to see if I can't talk this morning. A space started. Because, man, she be straight fire. Straight up, it started. Let's see. Oh, yep, she did. Let's see what she talking about. 4 other listeners. Why does, oh yeah, because I got the screen too goddamn big. 300. Nope, don't need it that big. There we go. We're going to start listening. So we are looking
welcome to bonus edition of the Thunderdome. It's looking more like as we get closer to election cycle, these conversations need to be more than once a week. I ain't making no promises because I got things in the works, but as we need to, I will be holding secondaries. So make sure y'all got y'all notifications and everything on. So when we do these impromptus, you'll be able to keep up with it. All right. So welcome to the Thunderdome, everybody. It's going to be interesting conversation today. Again, today's conversation is going to be more for those people who have been with us long term and have started to develop your skill set, because we're going to be working on a lot of the things that we have done and talked about over our time in the Thunderdome. This is not us just talking. These things are applicable, right? You can actually use what we are saying to make better arguments, to have better conversations, to really, like, we're gonna show you today. You could body the left if you start to change the way you're doing these conversations, right? So it's really targeted towards that group of people. So if you've been listening to us for a while, you're like, yeah, I understand, but I really don't. This will probably shed a lot more light on why we say the things that we say the way that we say them. And again, it fits our first two purposes, which our first purpose is for Black conservatives who are considering the Republican Party as a political option. We're here for you, right? We don't say it in a disparaging way. We want you to go in, we want you to take over, we want you to dominate. If we are able to help you and prevent you from going over any of the speed bumps and roadblocks that we had to in our political in our little jaunt down politics, we will do that, right? That is what we're here to do. Today is going to be about your armor and your weaponry, right? It is going to be heavy, 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 heavy about your armor and about your weaponry, right? So understand you are in your own space unless you come up here on stage to speak, and then that's a little bit different. But you are in your own space, your own mind. You can answer these questions and actually follow along with what we're doing, and nobody will ever know that you did it. But it is important that you actually start flexing your brain muscles to be able to recognize these things, to be quick in terms of following the tactical roadmap we're going to lay out, and being able to stand 10 toes down because you got your other elements met, right? It's going to be really, really heavy on that. I know that the other conversations are the sexy conversations, but those sexy conversations, they could do nothing but get you hemmed up in a situation you don't want to be in, right? We are talking about long-term strategic changing of the battlefield, changing of the conversation, changing of the dynamic. And it is possible to do so. So that's really what we're going to be focused on today. If you are new and you ain't been here before and you like, I don't know what these crazy bitches is talking about, just sit silently and learn. Maybe don't think that you need to intercede, because I am not going to be playing with ignorant people today, right? This is only for the people that are actually serious about what we're talking about. You get up here, you start playing stupid, I'm gonna treat you as such. So please, 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 please mind my attitude today. Yeah, so we're gonna go real heavy, 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 heavy on your armor and your weaponry. Second, for white conservatives and Republicans, and I know y'all like to come after the fact, but this is for you. This is for you, okay? You need to hear this. You need to understand this. You need to understand the role you play in this. You need to understand why we consistently put our boots on your neck. You need to understand why we would rather fight you than to fight Black Democrats, even though we know Black Democrats are our biggest enemy. There is a reason we choose to fight you first, and it has nothing to do with your whiteness. It has everything to do with your ignorance and your arrogance. And until you realize that it is your ignorance and your arrogance that is stopping this real fight from happening, we are going to continue to keep our boot on your neck. And if that somehow gets your panties in a bunch, put a couple bees in your bonnet, raise your hand, bring your ass up here and tell me why. I want to know. I want to have that conversation with you. Come test the waters. And of course, thirdly, every once in a while, if we're doing something for research purposes or something that'll go into a bigger project or anything like that, we will tell you about that ahead of time. You will get credit for any idea you add to the conversation. Do not worry. We are not those people. And we value intellectual thought above anything else. So that is how you make your dent in our circle. All right. That being said, welcome up. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm really good. I'm really ready for today's conversation. Had a chance to rest my mind yesterday, and yesterday I was going through the timeline. I noticed Black men were doing big things in politics. I said, all right, let's get it. So I'm really excited for today's, I want to call it a masterclass. And I'm glad to see Naheem is in the room today, because I definitely want to bring him to the stage once we get to this particular topic, because I think it's going to be really informative in terms of how we frame messaging when dealing with a lot of race-based legislation and all that good stuff. So I am ready to go.
So I do want to take a second out real quick, and of course, make sure we all remembering our brother Dexter Taylor. And again, if you had an opportunity, or if you see posts with his name, his hashtag on it, make sure you're retweeting it. Make sure you are continuing to direct people towards his GoFundMe page. We do not want to lose him in this cycle, because we are out and he is in, that his voice and his spirit doesn't take hold and take place in our room. We want to make sure we are remembering our brothers always. So please do not stop with the retweeting of the hashtag. making sure his story is getting out there when you're able to. I am loving seeing a lot of the comparisons with what's going on with Hunter being put out in comparison to what happened to Carbon. And that is really, really expanding the reach of the people that are hearing about this story. And that is power that you have, right? The power is not just in the big names. The power is in a whole bunch of little people constantly and consistently keeping at it, doing the work. And even if on social media, that's just a retweet or that's just a hashtag or that's just some kind of comment that encompasses it. Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? This is your ability as the little mobile army you are on social media to be able to continuously spread stories like this. And, you know, our brother Carbon actually really, really, really deserves that. So please, please, please make sure you keep that up. And then I also saw on the timeline today that our Sister Nick, lost her mother recently. And anybody who has done that understands what that pain is like and what it's like to go through that. So we want to shout out our sis and let her know that we are sending her extra love, that she is on our heart, she is on our soul, and that anything she needs, anybody she needs to reach out and talk or anything else, she does have family here that has her back. So she just remember, you got us, sis, and we love you. We love you.
So going to stop it right there. For the simple fact of I'm gonna go join the conversation, join it, and can't do that and be streaming at the same time. So I hope everybody learned something today and continue to learn. And if you're on Twitter, go join the conversation with Sonny. I do believe that we can go further together as one instead of trying to do things on our own. Not saying that we can't, but we're stronger together in doing things as a team instead of trying to, you know, that's one thing that I know with doing Operation Hug the Black. I had to tell myself, you got to forget and forgive. But I was like, damn, that's just hard though, right? So what I did is forgave, but didn't forget. You got to earn that. And I just don't believe that people are earning that respect right now because we continually are doing the same things over and over again instead of breaking that cycle. And that's how we get true freedom, right? That's how we get true liberation, is to break that cycle. And I don't believe people really want to break the cycle. So I'm going to end off this today with, just like I started it with Bob Marley. But with this one, you know, it was Get Up, Stand Up. This one is the redemption song. So pay attention, listen, because, you know, Bob get deep. So enjoy, and I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time, same place. Win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. Y'all have a great one.
All pirates, yes, they rob by, sold unto the merchant ships. Minutes of a day to guide from the bottomless pit, but my aim was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help the same? These songs of freedom, that's all I ever had. Redemption song, Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. Allah shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look. Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you ask the same? These songs of freedom is all I ever am. Redemption song, redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Whoa, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop off the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Won't you ask the same? Jesus of freedom, that's all I ever had. Redemption song, all I ever had. Redemption song, songs of freedom, songs of freedom.
You're hovering, wondering if